Good morning, everyone. I hope you're having a great day and that you had a good weekend. We're going to be, moving back towards we're going to be moving into phase three starting next week. So I can't wait to see you all at the same time. And hopefully we can actually have class together. That would be amazing. But anyway, until then, we're going to keep on doing what we're doing, which is, I'm going to give you an online little lecture here and then you have your work to work on. But just a little bit of background here. The United States is one of the largest consumer of petroleum or oil. We use 19.5 million barrels just in 2000 alone, and it's probably increased since then. Japan, who was the second largest, used 5.5 million barrels. To be fair, though, we have a much larger population than Japan. And we also have a lot, travel is much more spread out in the United States. We're a pretty large country, all things considered. Now, most of our petroleum comes from other parts of the world, and specifically OPEC countries, okay? These are Saudi Arabia, Nigeria, Venezuela. We also import petroleum from Canada, Mexico, and the United Kingdom. So while we produce a lot of our own, it doesn't produce enough. So it's just something to keep in mind. Now, the Earth provides all the elements necessary to sustain life. The elements from the Earth that are not made by people but can be used by them for food, fuel, or other necessities are called renewable resource or natural resources. Now, people can use these natural resources as much as they want. These renewable resources cannot be used up or can be replaced naturally or grown again in a relatively short amount of time. Wind, sun, water, forest, and animal lives are examples of renewable resources. The Earth's crust, however, contains many non-renewable resources that cannot be replaced, such as minerals or fossil fuels. Now, just to kind of put this into perspective, though, a fossil fuel is renewable, but it's renewable over millions of years. So it's not really feasible. It's making new stuff. It just takes a long, long time. So we have to manage it appropriately. Now, because fossil fuels like coal and oil and other non-renewable resources cannot be replaced, they must be conserved. The immediate goal of conservation is to manage vital resources carefully so that people's present needs are met. An equally important long-term goal is to ensure that the needs of future generations are met. With these future needs in mind, environmental experts have encouraged people to replace their dependence on fossil fuels with the use of renewable energy sources. Many countries, for example, already produce hydroelectric power, which is a renewable energy source generated from falling water. Another renewable energy source is solar energy, power produced by the sun's heat. Unfortunately, harnessing solar energy requires large, expensive equipment, so it is not yet, a pretty economical alternative to other energy sources. Still, another renewable energy source is electricity created by nuclear energy, the power made by creating a controlled atomic reaction. However, this is concerning because many of these, like the use of nuclear power is, considered fairly dangerous, and it also produces a lot of waste that we cannot deal with safely, or at least it is hard to deal with safely. Now, most natural resources are not evenly distributed throughout the Earth. This uneven distribution affects the global economy, as if you were to look at your book pages, you would be able to see on page 92. As a result, countries specialize in the economic activities best suited to their resources. And geographers and economists classify all of the world's economic activities into four types. You have primary economic activities, which involve taking or using natural resources directly from the earth. They include farming, grazing, fishing, forestry, and mining. Primary economic activities take place near the natural resources that are being gathered or used. For example, coal mining occurs at the site of a gold deposit. Secondary economic activities use raw materials to produce something new and more valuable. Examples of secondary economic activities include manufacturing automobiles, assembling electronic goods, producing electric power, or making pottery. These activities occur close to the resource or close to the market for the finished good. Tertiary economic activities do not involve directly acquiring or remaking natural resources. Instead, they are activities that provide services to people and businesses. Doctors, teachers, lawyers, truckers, and store clerks all provide professional, wholesale, or retail services. And then there's quaternary economic activities are concerned with the processing, management, and distribution of information. They are vitally important to modern economies that have been transformed in recent years by the information revolution or the computer revolution. People performing these activities include white-collar professionals working in education, government, business, information processing, and research. Now, economic activities help influence a country's level of development. These countries those countries having much technology manufacturing, such as the United States, are called developing countries. There, most people work in manufacturing, service industries, and enjoy a high standard of living. Farmers in developed countries engage in commercial farming, raising crops and livestock to sell in the market. And because of modern techniques, only a small percentage of these countries' workers is needed to grow food to feed entire populations. Those countries working toward greater manufacturing and technology use are called developing countries. In many developing countries, which are mainly in Africa, Asia, and Latin America, agriculture remains dominant. Despite much commercial farming, most farmers in these countries engage in subsistence farming, growing only enough food for their family's needs. As a result, most people in developing countries remain poor. Industrialization, or the spread of industry, however, has transformed once largely agricultural countries, such as China and Malaysia. Despite advances, the global influence of developed countries has sparked resentment in some developing countries. Feeding on this discontent, militant groups have tried to strike back by engaging in terrorism or the use of violence to create fear in a given population. Small in size and often limited in resources, these groups seek to unleash fear by violence to heighten the influence to promote world change. Okay, so this gives you, this map here gives you an idea of where a lot of these resources are located. Now, these are a lot of the non-renewable resources, so the minerals. So you can just, take a look at this map and get an idea of where everything is located. This also will tell you which countries are considered advanced versus which ones are considered developed or undeveloped. Now, this is, this changes over time. But for the most part, the advanced countries don't usually go backwards, but the other countries are usually catching up. Now, the unequal distribution of natural resources promotes a complex network of trade amongst countries. So, when countries export their specialized products, trading them to other countries that cannot produce these goods. When countries cannot produce as much as they need of a good, they import it or they buy it from another country. That country, in turn, may buy the first country's products, making the two countries trading partners. A major stimulus to world trade has come from multinational companies. A multinational company is a firm that does business in many places throughout the world. A multinational company is multinationals are usually headquartered in a developed country and often locate their manufacturing or assembly operations in developing countries with low labor costs. In recent decades, many developing countries have allowed multinationals to buy property or build factories or form partnerships with local companies. Now, a government tries to manage its country's trade to benefit its own economy. Some governments add a tariff or a tax to the price of goods that are imported. Because tariffs make imported goods more costly, governments often use them to influence people to buy products made in their home country instead of imported goods. Governments sometimes create other barriers to trade. They might put a strict quota or number limit on the quantity of a particular product that can be imported from a particular country. A government may even impose an embargo or a banning trade with another country altogether as a way to punish that country for political or economic differences. Now, in recent years, governments around the world have moved toward free trade or the removal of trade barriers so that goods can flow freely from other countries. The General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, or GATT, was the first international agreement to promote free trade. And in 1995, GATT became the World Trade Organization, to which most countries now belong. In various parts of the world, several countries have joined together to create regional free trade agreements. For example, the United States, Mexico, and Canada have set up the North American Free Trade Agreement, or NAFTA, to eliminate all trade barriers to one another's goods. The European Union, which is the largest trading bloc, includes many of the countries of Europe. Many members of the European Union have adopted a regional currency, or which is the euro, to extend their cooperative efforts. Referring to so basically these are all countries that have come together to work together. In recent decades, human economic activities have drastically affected the environment. A major environmental challenge today is pollution, or the release of unclean or impure elements into the air, water, and land. Now, Earth's bodies of water are normally renewable, purifying themselves over time, but this natural cycle can be interrupted by human activity. Tankers and offshore rigs can cause oil spills, and industries may dump chemical waste that enters and pollutes the water supply. Fertilizers and pesticides from farms can seep into groundwater and cause harm, as can animal waste and untreated sewage. Land pollution occurs where chemical waste poisons fertile topsoil and solid waste is dumped in landfills. Radioactive waste from nuclear power plants and toxic runoff from chemical processing plants can also leak into the soil and cause contamination. So this is bad. So now you can look at here. This is an idea of where most of the world's clean water. Now, there are areas, and even in the United States, where this is not always the case. But for the most part, we have clean water here. As you can see, poor or undeveloped countries where it's not necessarily the case. Now, the main source of air pollution is the burning of fossil fuels by industries and vehicles. Burning fuel gives off poisonous gases that can seriously damage people's health. Acidic chemicals in air pollution also combine with precipitation to form acid rain. Acid rain eats away at the surfaces of buildings, kills fish, and may even destroy entire forests. Now, forests provide animal habitats, prevent soil erosion, and conduct photosynthesis, the process by which plants take in carbon dioxide and, in the presence of sunlight, produce carbohydrates. The oxygen released during photosynthesis is vital for human and animal survival. Decreasing acid rain will help preserve this environmental balance. Now, some scientists believe that the rising levels of pollutants in the atmosphere are contributing to a general increase in the Earth's temperatures, a trend they call global warming. Although not all experts agree that global warming is occurring, scientists who study it warn that the increase in temperature may have disastrous effects, causing glaciers and ice caps to melt and raising the level of the world's oceans. Higher water levels in oceans, they claim, could flood coastal cities and submerge smaller islands. Now, as humans expand their communities, they threaten natural ecosystems, places where the plants and animals are dependent upon one another for their environment and their environment for survival. Ecosystems can be found in every climate and vegetation region of the world. Because the Earth's land, air, and water are interrelated, what harms one part of the system harms all the other parts, including humans and other living things. As people become more aware of how their actions affect this delicate balance of life, they are starting to manage resources more wisely by improving water treatment, preserving wilderness areas, and developing alternatives to fossil fuels. All right, that's the end of the section, the end of the chapter. Now we'll be getting ready for the Unit 1 test. So we'll be reviewing in class for the next few days, so be ready for that. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me, and we'll see y'all later.